Hi class, welcome to today's lecture. We are going to be looking at data collection and management in clinical research. So our main objective for today's class is first to understand the importance of data collection and the management in clinical trials, learn the key principles and best practices when collecting accurate and reliable data. We're going to explore different methods of data collection and also look at how they are applicable in clinical research. We're going to gain insight into the principles of data management, including data storage, organization, quality control. And at the end, we're going to familiarize yourself with the regulatory requirements and ethical considerations related to the data collection and management in clinical research. Now, the importance of accuracy in the reliable data collection. Now, we've talked about the protocol, about the ICF, I talked about IB. So, but at the end of the day, research will not be successful or will not be possible if we don't collect the data, right? At the end of the day, the reason why we enroll patients into the study is because we want to collect their data. If we had all the data we need, we wouldn't even need patients in the study, but we don't have the data. That's why when we're conducting the study, we have to collect the data, because when the data is collected, that data has been analyzed. When it's analyzed, then it has to be used to make better decisions about the safety and efficacy of these drugs. So data collection forms the foundation of evidence-based practice and decision-making in healthcare, because we have reliable data that supports the identification of patterns, trends, and correlation that guides clinical research outcomes. It also maintains the accurate data collection, ensures credibility and reproducibility of the study findings. Now, the quality data drives regulatory compliance and ethical considerations in clinical research. So now, quality data is very important when it comes to research, because we want to ensure that when we're collecting the data, it's very reliable. It's qualitative. It's not just, and you may ask that what consists of a quality data, right? Data is qualified, but what do you mean by quality data? Quality data in this case in research simply means that the data can be retrievable. The data meets the requirements of the protocol. So if the data is collected according to the protocol, that data is considered quality data. Now, the importance, again, looking at clinical research relies on high quality data for drawing the valid outcomes and making evidence-based decisions. Accurate and complete data collection ensures that the data is reliable, and the results, of course, will promote patient safety. Proper data collection allows for evaluation of the treatments, efficacy, and safety, leading to improved patient outcome and new discoveries in healthcare. Now, what are some of the methods of data collection and the implications? We have the primary collection methods. And now, primary collection methods, what does that simply mean? Primary collection method simply means that we are collecting the primary data. We're collecting the data for the first time. So first-hand data, which means you speaking to the patient directly. That's a first-hand information that you're receiving from the patient. Now, parts of our methods of collecting that primary data collection is interviews. When you interview a patient, you're collecting the primary data directly from the patient. When you have surveys and questionnaires, you're collecting primary data. When you have the patient complete the survey and they give you the questionnaire back, that is primary data. Well, observations, when you observe a patient, that is primary data. When you conduct clinical examinations, if a physician has conducted physical exams on the patient, or even you as a coordinator, you draw blood samples, those results are primary data because they're directly from the patient and to you. Now, secondary data means a data that has been recorded somewhere else, and you are looking at that data from that standpoint. For example, a patient came in and they were recorded in the EDC, in their electronic medical record system. Now, in that electronic medical record system, you are reviewing that data. That is then considered, that data that you're reviewing is considered secondary data, because you didn't have direct access to the patient at the time of data collection. The same goes for administrative database and also literature reviews, where you gather data from previous sources and outline them in a particular order, and whoever reviews that data at that point in time is reviewing the secondary data. Now, another set of data collection of methods are look at the method that we're collecting the data. We're collecting the data in something called the case report forms. In our previous lecture, we talked about the case report forms being part of an essential documentation purpose as part of the ISF, which is the investigator site file documents. But in this case, we're looking at the ISF as part of a data collection method. So the case report forms or the CRS, we're looking at CRS of the data collection methods. The traditional methods of involving paper-based forms for collecting the structured data for the patient. Essential elements for CRS, of course, include the patient demographics, which means their name, height, weight, sex, gender. Then we also go ahead to look at their medical history, then treatment details. But again, you also have to understand the case report forms are not just built, I'm not just collecting random data, right? They're collecting data that is specific to the protocol. For example, you may realize that when a patient comes to the visit, you collect their height, their weight, the blood pressure, but the case report forms only has space for the weight and the blood pressure. It doesn't have space for the height. That simply means that the study does not need you to collect the height. So if you went ahead and collected the height for the patient, that's your own, right? You're collecting the height on your own. But the study does not require you to collect the height for the patient. Electronic data capture system. Electronic data capture system utilizes electronic platforms to capture, store, and manage clinical trial data. ADC systems offer advantages such as real-time data entry, automated checks for errors, and of course, improved data quality. Like I mentioned, we are going to have access to an electronic data capture system at the end of the lecture, at the end of our program, so that you have an experience on how the EDC system actually works. Now, patient-reported outcomes. So PROs. Patient-reported outcomes is another form of data collection, because these are usually questionnaires, questionnaires which the sponsor will create. And again, these questionnaires are part of the study. They're part of the study documentation purpose, because now this questionnaire may be in different forms. It may be in an interview form. It may be in a questionnaire form online, where the participant or the subject will have to log into a platform and complete the questionnaire. It may be also part of it might be part of the research, where the sponsor may want to collect patient outcomes to examine how the patients are actually doing as they are participating in the study, if they are experiencing any quality of life issues that may impact their participation in the study. Biomarkers and imaging. These are other set of data collection, again, and implementation. Biomarkers are measurable indicators that reflect the biological or pathogenical processes. So these are simply blood collection samples that are collected, where we kind of analyze to examine how the patients are performing during their participation in the study. Imaging goes to look at things like MRI, CT scans, or PET scans, where the PET scans or images, how we collect this imaging data, and how that imaging data is being recorded as part of data required for the study. Now, essential components for data management. What are some of the essential components when it comes to data management? So data documentation, creating a detailed data collection protocol and standardized forms. So remember, the clinical research, the study protocol has a section for data management. What that simply means is that it outlines specific instructions on how the data should be collected, what kind of data is required, and the method of collection, and also changes that occur during the study. It also looks at the data entry and validation. Data entry and validation simply means that when we transcribe the data, so when the patient comes in for their visit and the physician has seen the patient, they've done their physical exam, blood samples. At the end of the day, they have this they're gonna have to transcribe the data into the EDC system, because remember, the EDC system is an electronic data capture system that the sponsor has access and the site has access. So which means any data that's been entered in the EDC system is being seen by the sponsor. So the sponsor has access to that data. At that point in time, since the sponsor has access to data, what that simply means is that they can easily query the data, they can easily check the data and to ensure accuracy and completeness. Data storage and security. So how do we store the data? We're implementing secure storage systems to protect sensitive data, adhering to data protection regulations such as the HIPAA, GDPR. GDPR is a global data protection regulation. This is something that it started occurring, I think 2018 or 2020. It became very serious. These are just standardized processes to protect the data for every patient. Now, this is not only for patients, because if you visit certain websites, they're going to ask you to accept cookies or accept GDPR. Some of those regulations are GDPR, and most people don't even pay attention to them because it doesn't mean anything to them. They just check yes and move on. But again, you have to understand that these are regulations that are involved in the protection of your data and ensuring that your data is kept private. Now, other aspects of data management includes data cleaning and quality control. So what does data cleaning and quality control really mean? In this case, we're looking to identify and rectify data entry errors. If at any point in time the data was collected for the study and there is an error in the data, how do we correct that error? How do we rectify it? How do we fix it? Do we need to use something called data clarification form to ensure that the form is used, the data has been clarified? Now, some of the challenges that we have when it comes to the collection of data include participant recruitment and retention. When we're enrolling participants in the study, it becomes sometimes maybe challenging because we may not have the required patient population, even though at the beginning of the study, the sponsor always asks the PI, hey, do you have the patient population? The PI is always excited. Yeah, we do. But at the end of the day, if we don't have enough patient population, then at the end of the day, we are not going to be able to meet our required data collection metrics, which of course becomes increasingly challenging. Standardization and protocol adherence. So we're establishing clear protocols and guidance for data collection, ensuring that the protocols are standard operating procedures among all the research personnel. This simply means that once we implement the protocol into the system, once we implement the protocol into the review process, that simply means every site will follow the same protocol for data management, data entry, data validation, and at that point in time, since everyone is following at the same, every site is following the same pattern, then there's minimal room for errors and bias. Another rule that we're looking at is the data integrity and interoperability. So this simply means how to interpret the data. This is how to interpret the data, right? So another challenge and considerations that we should take note is data integration and interoperability. So how to overcome the challenges related to different data formats and systems, facilitating data sharing and collaboration among research sites. So how do we collaborate with data among research at different sites that participate in that study? Now, the next part that we're going to be looking at is how to ensure data quality. We've collected the data from the sites. We've looked at the different metrics and how to maintain data interpretation across the site. But we have to ensure data quality. How to ensure data validity ensures that the data that has been collected is accurately represented and also measures or observe the phenomenon of the data. The validity can be enhanced by using standardized measure tools, clear definition, and robust data collection methods. So what this simply means is that we are going to be able to use standardized methods for the analyzation and review of data. Another process is called data completeness. How do you make sure that the data that was collected is complete? So data completeness is also tied into data quality, because once the data is complete, then you're sure that the data that has been collected for the study has met the standard for the protocol and also ICH regulations. Collecting all required documents points to answer the research questions and, of course, fulfill the study objectives. Proper planning and training are necessary to ensure the complete data collection at each point. Now, how do you ensure data accuracy? So look at the data integrity, data accuracy, now data completeness, now looking at data accuracy. Data accuracy refers to the absence of errors. So a good or complete data in research means that the data have no errors. Adequate training, of course, quality checks and double data entry methods can enhance data accuracy for the site for that study. So periodic data checks, and if at any point in time the sponsor says every 3 months we're going to be conducting data checks, just to ensure that if there's any mistakes or errors, you want to catch those errors now. You don't want to catch the errors when your study is about to close, right? Because that's going to be like at the end. It's like catch the errors in the middle, don't catch them at the end. Because if you catch them at the end, there's no room to fix them. Because if you catch them in the middle, you can fix them while the study is still ongoing. Data timeliness. How do you ensure that the data is collected in a timely manner? Is crucial for capturing events and outcomes. If a patient, you're collecting data, you as a study coordinator, you're collecting, a patient comes into the clinic and you're collecting the data. At the end of the day, what happens, you forget to actually enter the data. The patient comes and you're asking the patient, hey, Miss Mary, how do you feel today? Miss Mary said, I had a headache yesterday, girl, and I had this pain. I took Tylenol, I feel better. Then at the end of the day, you just get in the conversation and forgot to record everything that the subject just said. Guess what happens? You will forget, because if you say, you know what, I'm going to put it, it's already 4 o'clock. I just want to go home. I'll put it in tomorrow. Trust me, by the time you come in tomorrow, you will definitely forget what the patient said. So that's why we're talking about real-time data entry and data entry timeliness. That also ensures data quality of the data that has been entered, because now when you leave the data and come in tomorrow to put it in, you might realize, what did Miss Mary actually say? Did she say that she had back pain or is it neck pain? I think I'm going to go with neck pain. I think she said neck pain. Yeah, I'll go with neck pain. Right. So you see, at that point in time, you're doing a lot of guesswork, right? Because you're not entirely sure. That's why when we encourage coordinators, or as a coordinator, it's your responsibility to maintain quality data by ensuring that the data has been collected in a timely manner without any delay or, of course, bias. Now, another policy for us to look into is data confidentiality and security. How do you ensure that the patient's privacy is maintained and ensure that the data that has been collected has been secured and transmitted accurately? How do you ensure that the patient or your method of handling patients' data meets HIPAA regulations? Now, if at any point in time a patient calls or requires you, or for example, a third-party vendor, say a sponsor, calls and say, hey, send me the information, send me the hospital records for patient A who was hospitalized yesterday. Now, when you send the hospital records for patient A, you're not sending in, you're redacting it. So redacting simply means that you are blurring. You can print it out and black out the patient's name and the patient's medical record number and the date of birth, but you have to black out all identifiers so that the sponsor does not identify the patient, does not know who this particular patient is, because sponsors identify patients or research subjects, research studies identify patients by numbers and not by name. Now, data management in clinical research. Now, how do you manage the data? We've talked about how to, what are some of the quality, data quality points, but management of study data now look at data entry. Entering the collected data into a database or electronic system for further analysis. So first point is collecting the data, entering that data, and of course, data collection requires training. As a study coordinator, upon your entry into the study, the study sponsor will train you, right? They will train you on how to collect data. They will train you on how to enter the data in the electronic data capture system. No matter the number of experiences you've had, you will always have to complete that training. Once you complete the training, you have to provide a certificate of completion to them. Upon that certificate of completion, then they will then say you have completed the training, then they grant you access into the system. The second stage is data cleaning. How do you process the process of identifying and correcting errors? Now, data cleaning simply means that the data management, which is not you, you've entered the data. Maybe you've entered the data, there might be some 1 or 2 errors in the data, but now the sponsor or the CRO or the data managers for the sponsor side will have to come in and say, hey, let's do data cleaning. Let's try to clean up the data. Let's resolve all the queries. Let's clean up, make sure that all the errors have been cleaned up, have been corrected. All the missing data has been entered into the system. So that's the act of data cleaning. Database systems. So database systems simply means specialized software platforms designed for storing, organizing, and then managing clinical research data. So in research, there are different database systems that are used. But again, these database systems are used to store data only. A common examples of database systems are Oracle Clinical, Medidata Wave, RedCap. Those are common examples of databases that we have. I have used all of these 3 systems in my clinical research whatever career. I'm currently using Medidata Wave as part of the database that we store patients data, not patient data, subjects data, right? Clinical research data. But again, all of this will require you to be trained before having access into the systems. Data security. How do you secure the data that has been collected for that study? So implement measures to protect data from unauthorized access, loss, or corruption. If at any point in time, one of the users lose their ID or forget their password somewhere, and someone else, a third-party person, gets access to that data, right? And when they get access to the data, at the end of the day, they may have access to patient information, which is not appropriate. So that's why the data security will ensure things like access controls or regular backups to ensure that the backups are, regularly kept without any need for the patient to have concerns about their data. Data monitoring. So data monitoring simply means that there's a regular review of the collected data to ensure that the quality of the data is adherence to the protocol. So once the data has been collected, there's a periodic review or periodic monitoring of the data by the sponsor or by the CRO, by the CRA. They come in on a periodic basis to review the data to ensure that the data has been collected to meet the protocol standards. They're also able to identify and address any data errors or protocol deviations or missing data. So this is the job of a CRA. When a CRA comes in for those site visits, they want to make sure that you, as the study sponsor, has reviewed, you as a study coordinator has reviewed the study. They want to make sure that the protocol has been followed. They want to make sure that the data that you've entered into the database is accurate. And of course, if there are any discrepancies of the data, they will make sure that the discrepancies are corrected. Data auditing, independent review of data management processes and documentation to ensure compliance with regulations and guidelines. Audits may be conducted by the sponsors or regulatory authorities or third-party organizations. So this is where they are able to come in to review the data to audit. Now, when it comes to auditing, they're not just auditing the data. I mean, they're auditing the data, but it's not just the only thing they review. They audit during that auditing process. They are really just auditing the study, right? And when they're auditing the study, they're auditing the entire process. You as a coordinator being at the site, they're looking at some of the aspects of your conduct of a study and the investigator conduct of a study. So that's some of the things that they're going to be looking at. Regulations involve regulations and ethical considerations for the conduct of a study. We look at the good clinical practice because those are the regulations that are involved for the conduct of a study. Good clinical practice, set of international ethical and scientific quality standards for design, conduct, and reporting clinical trials. So those different the different methods, say the ICH GCP regulations must be followed at all times for the conduct of a study. Informed consent process. So after the GCP, we're also looking at informed consent process. The reason why we're looking at informed consent process when it comes to data management is that the informed consent is the first data points that we collect from the patient, which means it's the first documentation that we collect, from a patient to ensure that the patient has actually agreed to participate in the study. At that point in time, once we collect that patient's information, we collect that informed consent, we are accepting that the patient has accepted the risks of the study, they have accepted the benefits, they have their rights have been reviewed, and they've decided to participate in the study. So these are some of the measures that we look at when it comes to informed consent process in data management. Now, there've been significant technological advancement in research as well across, as technological advancement improves across the world, it also improves in research, right? So we have mobile health. Mobile health has become part of research process recently, and the utilization of mobile devices and apps for data collection and remote patient monitoring has become something which is being very helpful and innovative for research. Now we have investigators who are speaking to patients in real time via apps that have been reviewed. Now, the good thing again you should know about this is that every technology that will be used in the collection of patients' data has been reviewed by the IRB, right? Every app that has been developed is being reviewed by the IRB and has been approved by the IRB to collect patients' data. Just because any patient-facing material has been reviewed and approved by the IRB, because they want to ensure that the patient, the information the patient receives is accurate, and the information the patient receives is complete and meets GCP regulations, and it's not just any fake stuff. We look at artificial intelligence as well as machine learning. AI and machine learning algorithms can, be used to analyze large data sets, to identify patterns, and of course, make predictions when it comes to clinical research. Our major takeaway for this class, for you to just understand the importance of accurate and reliable data collection is crucial for the evidence-based medical practice and decision-making. Some of the challenges we use in the collection of data, of course, include participant recruitment and retention, then standardization, and data integrity. Data integrity, of course, means compliance issues of essential maintaining of credibility and ethical standards in clinical research. That brings us to the end of this class. Thank you so much, and I'm going to stop the recording now.